Paul? Can't hear him. He's not on mute.
Can you hear me?
No, wait. You gotta turn up the volume or something.
Which are we?
Okay, I got it now.
Yeah. Okay, good. I got itchy, scratchy throat right now, so I'm gonna be a little bit muffled. But this whole thing about Juliana with the Mauna Kea stewardship, it brought me back to this essay I found from Kamehameha Publishing. I think it was about 12, 13 years ago. You guys know who broke Apu Kuniahi Parker is, the artist, the Hawaiian artist. He painted just similar to Herb Kane. He painted Hawaiian royalty, the figures and everything. And he wrote this essay, and it was at Kamehameha Publishing. And it was probably published about 13, 14 years ago. And he's talking about Kuleana, and I wanted to read it again because it's kind of timeless for me. He says, our life stories are connected to our ancestors. They teach us about Kuleana, of right, privilege, and responsibility. In this essay, I share my stories and vivid memories of the special people in my life taught me Kuleana, respect, and unwavering faith. These special people taught me that every person is a part of a whole, a family, a community, and the cosmos. These tales are about the goodness, strength, generosity, and wisdom of my ancestors and other revered kupuna who inspired and taught me in words and mostly in deeds. He goes, life comes full circle. As I, a great-grandson, a grandson, a son, and now a father, one day be a grandfather and a great-grandfather. To honor my ancestors, I ask myself, what kind of ancestor will I be? I just thought it's kind of timely at this point. So, aloha, thank you.
Paul. So with that, I'm gonna thank you, Paul, and we'll move to the public comments. We did receive one written submission of testimony. I don't think the person is online, but and we'll circulate it. But she was present at our Waimea community meeting, and she had some thoughts that she wanted to share about the strategic framework and what might be added, deleted, reorganized. So anyway, we have a couple page letter from that individual that will circulate. With that, I'm going to move to item number 3, which is approval of minutes. Are there any changes or amendments for the approval of them or for the minutes? If not, we could get a motion to approve.
I move we approve the minutes.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Any objections? All in favor? Everybody else? Thank you. Unanimous. In terms of the chair report, there's nothing to report specifically. I'm going to move to the next item, which will kind of constitute part of my report, which is governance. And in governance, I want to create 2 pigs. The first is a formation of an astronomy management system pig. And what the purpose of that is to research and to investigate other I guess organizations and how they manage observatories. That's not to say that the current system is not or is broken or is inadequate, but I think the more information we get about how others manage observatories across the world, basically, may be helpful in terms of giving us an additional basis or a broader basis to understand how CMS is currently managing, and how we might either tweak or adopt what they already have. So with that, I wanted to appoint myself, Noinoi Wong Wilson, Rich Matsuda, Lana Kila, and Neil as members of the PIG. And as part of this, just to let you know, we have already received an invitation from the Association of Universities for Research in Astronomy, inviting us to better understand how they manage observatories, both in Arizona as well as in Chile. If you know they're called AURA, is constituted of many research universities that do research in astronomy. They believe that either going to Chile or Arizona will help us understand what they believe are best practices in terms of observatory management. They have also developed processes and procedures to be inclusive of community, and believe that they want to share that, and also how they have integrated the input of community into their governance framework, and also believe that visiting them would allow us to understand how they have worked sustainability and global impact, environmental impact into their practices. So we're exploring right now whether or not it's feasible to visit one or more of their areas that they currently manage. So with that, Linda, I don't need a vote to create a PIG, right?
I think you do.
Okay. Can I get a motion to create the I gotta get the name right, the Astronomy Management Systems PIG.
So
You got a second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion? Any questions?
sure, I got a question.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's a great idea. So I just had a thought about I started thinking about that. So Arizona would be good because the Native Americans would be interesting how they negotiate that. But I think would be even I don't know if you got one observatory in New Zealand, or it would be interesting how the Maoris. I'm trying to think something closer to our cultural background. Papua New Guinea maybe, or I don't know. I defer to Auntie Noinoi. Like, is there what would be the best place for go to see how they managing the Polynesians, if you will?
If you're asking me, Mayor, I don't think there's anywhere else in the Pacific. I may be wrong, Rich, but anywhere else in Polynesia that has a facility anywhere near ours.
Okay.
Not
Thank
that
you.
I know of.
There's a small one in Auckland, but it's very small and it's at ground level, basically.
Yeah, not that I know of the scale that we have on Mauna Kea or Chile or Arizona. Sorry.
Neil.
Yeah, mahalo. Mayor, I was wondering the same thing. And I know that in Chile, there's ARA is running some operation. And when I did an AI search about the indigenous people of Chile and their view about this, here's what I came up with through AI. The indigenous people of Chile, including the Mapuche, Rapa Nui, Diaguita, and Aymara, sorry if I'm butchering those names, possess a rich cultural heritage that is deeply entwined with their natural environment. Their worldview is often characterized by an intricate relationship with the land, emphasizing harmony, respect, and reciprocal interactions. This connection to nature is not merely practical but spiritual, where mountains, rivers, forests are considered sacred entities imbued with life and meaning. So they may not be Polynesian and share that, but as indigenous people who are really see place as sacred, it sounds like there's something to be learned possibly from their relationship and how they are engaged in the process of managing and supporting the telescopes in their area. So I hope, Mayor, that addresses some of your thoughts. Chair, the other thought as you wrote that, and I saw that you used the words that we're going to look at how we manage astronomy facilities. I think it's important to really keep in focus that our job is to manage a geophysical site, a spiritual and significant geophysical site, at which or upon which the astronomy facilities happen to play a very prominent and important part. But we're not in the business, it's like we're not the shopping center manager. We have a job to do with respect to that site in which we have figured out how to accommodate this, whether to and how to accommodate this and many other very important uses. So I just want to make sure that we're focused on the job of stewarding the Mauna and not being an astronomy facility manager.
Point well taken. If you have, I don't know. I've been told that once we establish the pig, it's risky to change anything in terms of the description or the composition or the tasks that they've been assigned. But with that, we'll keep that in mind. Unless you have specific wording that you would like to amend the description right now,
I have a suggestion, Chair. Maybe it would be formation of astronomy site management system. So you like to take into Neil's comment here, managing sites where astronomy occurs rather than astronomy itself.
there's some. I'll take that as a motion to amend the current motion.
Yeah, I'll state that as make a motion to amend the title of the PIG to Astronomy Site Management Systems Permitted Interaction Group.
Okay. Can I get a second for the amendment?
I'll second that friendly amendment.
Thank you. Any discussion on the amendment? If not, all those in favor? Yes.
Microphones on for everybody who's online.
Aye.
Thank you.
Yes. Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? No, thank you. And I forgot, can all those on Zoom confirm that they are they're not, no one else is present except for who we see with the mayor?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you. Now on the main motion of creating the PIG, any further discussion, comments, thoughts? If not, all those in favor, aye, or raise your hand, please. They have to say aye out loud, Neil, Linda.
No, I think the
Okay.
show of hands is sufficient.
Thank you. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Formation motion carried. The second PIG that I wanted to create, when we hired our executive director, we made a commitment that we would have an annual review of the executive director. So I wanted to create and I think that is a function that is prominent for this authority members for the board to do. So I've asked Paul, Pomai, and Ryan to be part of this PIG, which would create or help establish the criteria, of course, based upon the job description, as well as a process for us to evaluate the executive director. We've already reached out and thanked the DLNR HR people who will be providing technical assistance for this PIG if it gets created to establish criteria as well as a process for the ED evaluation. So with that, I ask for a motion to create the Executive Director Performance Evaluation PIG.
So moved.
Neil seconds, thank you. Any discussion, questions? If not, all those in favor, raise your hand or aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carried, so we've created 2 pigs today. At this point, I'm gonna move to agenda item 6, which is administration and report by the executive director, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and as usual, the report that takes place now is coupled with a report later on behalf of the Joint Management Committee. Right now, in the way of housekeeping, we seem to be on track for our office, interim office at 688 Kinoole. We estimate having that completed and available to us by June 15. Yesterday, I notified Kaiu Kimura, Executive Director of MKSOA Astronomy Center, that we would be vacating the current office that we're in, that she's been kind enough to provide by the 15th of June, no later than the 15th of June. She needs to accommodate an incoming staff person. And so again, our gratitude to her. And thanks to Bill Stormont for taking the lead on on identifying where we'll go to next. I also want to recognize that Greg Chun reached out, understanding our need for an interim office, and has made available workstations there if that becomes necessary. So we have a date final at MKSOA, again, the 15th of June. I'm going to ask Lloyd to provide an update on the planning RFP, specifically the critical dates that lay immediately ahead with the 2 planning firms that committed themselves to competing for this RFP. Lloyd?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. The RFP was done April 18th that we posted, and we have right now 2 respondents of interest. Their proposals are due May the 22nd, and we have already established with the evaluation committee that we will be evaluating it on May the 30th, which is a Friday. At that time, if there's multiple offers, which we hope to have, they will have an opportunity to do an oral presentation of their offer and not to exceed that information. And in the afternoon, the evaluation committee will be having the group evaluation to make a selection. So those are the key dates. We expect to award June the 11th, and hopefully we can get a contract done by June the 30th. We do have available in our budget, which I will go over in accounting, but I have allocated up to $2.4 million should the offers come in. Any questions?
Any questions of Lloyd? Okay. Thank you, Lloyd. In ways of updating the community talk story session in Waimea, at the outset of this meeting, Chair Komeiji acknowledged testimony, a single piece of testimony we received in letter form on our community website. On top of that testimony, you can anticipate that in the coming week, a complete recap of the Waimea meeting will be posted online. And there's an abundance of feedback that we've received both in the session itself and since the session has adjourned. And we will notify each of you board members in advance of us posting this synopsis publicly. But I do want Bill Stormont to provide some highlights of the Waimea community meeting. Bill?
Thank you, John, and aloha, everyone. Good to have you all here, see you. Meeting was held on April 17th. As we know, the 7 board members were present and welcomed that presence. Meeting was led by board members Rich Matsuda and Umai Berleman with an opening from Lanahila Mangwil. All of it generally quite well received. The structure of this meeting, as you know, was a lot different than previous Talk Story sessions. There was a deck of slides that offered the opportunity for folks to see the origins of the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority, the makeup of the board, everything that went into the beginnings of this entity. And the meat of the meeting was to review the strategic framework that had been developed by the board. And through the meeting, there was a presentation about that, an introduction to it, and then breakout sessions with members of the community there in small groups of 6 to 10 to review and ask or answer 2 questions that were offered by the facilitator, Mahina Paishan. What don't you understand in that strategic framework and what was missing? And so folks there in the room had an opportunity to discuss among themselves and then present back the findings of those small groups. And that's what's being written up in a synopsis by the meeting facilitators at the Hawaiʻi Alliance for Community-Based Economic Development, or HACBED. In the room, the count was 66 individuals, including staff and so forth, and community members, and 23 folks were online with us that evening as well. And well attended, a lot of good, very positive feedback from a number of folks, both after the meeting and subsequent to that. So that's the very quick wrap up of, and as Executive Director DeFries mentioned, that will be posted soon. The synopsis of that will be coming out within the next week or so. Happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
You know, let me call on a couple of board members. Neil, I was just going to call on you. You were in attendance, kind of your mana'o about that evening.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Bill, for your summary. Number one, I want to commend Mahina Paishan and the HACBED folks. I think they gave us great support at that meeting, and they deserve our acknowledgement. Number two, one of the piece of feedback I got was when we were all sitting on the stage. I've shared this with some of you, sitting on stage together, ready to answer their questions. Somebody took a photo of all of us sitting together side by side on stage and says, that really says it all. That you have folks from so many different stakeholder groups and representing so many different constituencies sitting side by side together, trying to work things out and collaborate with one another. The third point I would make is, as I read the testimony of the Konokohala Chamber of Commerce that you referenced earlier, Chair, there was a real embrace. This is by the Chamber of Commerce. There's an embrace of Hawaiian values, and really the emphasis on an understanding of what a special place this is, and an understanding of the need to do this right and to balance these interests and so forth. They didn't kind of pound on the table and say, we need jobs, or we need, this important economic pillar and support for our economy. They talked about the sacredness of this space and the importance of industry and all these activities and how we have to do that job really well. And I was really heartened by that testimony. And I look forward to going to more communities and hearing what they have to say as well. Mahalo.
Thank you. Board member Noinoe Wong Wilson, your manao about April 17 in Waimea.
Hello, everybody. I pretty much feel the same way as Neil. It was it was a different kind of community meeting I think I've ever experienced, relating to the issues of Mauna Kea, and very supportive, I think. And I think we have some work to do so that the community really understands what all the values and principles that we laid out in our strategic framework. So that's to come, and the reason why we're going to continue doing these meetings in community and outreaching to everybody so that they can move along with us as we move toward properly taking care of Mauna Kea. So yeah, mahalo to everybody who is there. Mahalo, Mayor, who is there. Thanks for coming out for that. And I think people were happy that, like Neil says, we were able to sit together in a space that shows our common interest in making sure we do the right thing for Mauna Kea. So that was great. Mahalo.
Thank you. Let me emphasize that the strategic framework is still in a draft form. The one that we circulated that evening that still exists is version number 5. Since version number 5 was introduced, internally on the board, there has been added feedback that needs to be vetted and considered. And then on top of that, Waimea became the first wave of community feedback. Understandably, some of the feedback we got is calling for more detail than the framework itself is intended to provide. But that feedback will help to inform the planning consultant once that consultant is on board. Because that level of detail, timelines, specific objectives, that would come in a formal plan. But nonetheless, we're grateful for it all. And we've just got to find a way to manage the flow of information going out into the community, and then most of all, when it returns to us, how best to provide that compilation of information to the board. Rich Matsuda, you're a resident of Waimea. Your thoughts about that evening?
Yeah, thank you. Largely echo what's been said so far. There were several staff members from the observatories based in Waimea who attended as well. And I've gotten lots of positive feedback. So this strategic framework document was handed out at the meeting, and folks have been asking to see it. So it's been passed out not only to staff members, but in community members that have been asking to see it. And like we heard in general, I know we're gonna get a full compilation of the feedback, but what I had heard at the meeting was great. We just want to understand it better, a little more detail, like Noinoe said. No one who was saying anything massive was missing or not in alignment with what the community was looking for. So very good start, I thought, and good way to have dialogue. There were Bill had mentioned the breakout groups in small, around the small tables, and I thought that was really healthy. They were not pre-assigned, right? So whoever was there was asked to move to the front and sit at tables. So there was a good mix of people with different perspectives sitting together and talking about the document, and I thought that was really great. So yeah, mahalo for asking, John.
Thank you. Is Pomai Bertelman on? No. Okay, how about Lanakila? All right, both Pomai and Lanakila played critical roles in helping to establish kind of the tone of that whole evening, starting with Lanakila's opening protocol. And, when you try and look at the effectiveness of something like this, for me, one of the key observations was when the community sticks around to help you clean up the hall. That's a good sign. That's a very good sign. This also speaks to the hospitality of the people of Waimea. Okay, I want to call on Mayor Alameda. And Mayor, thank you. You had been to Waimea the month previous for your own town hall, and thank you for coming back. We asked Mayor to open up with his comments that evening, but you're mana'o, Mayor.
Sure, I think just from the family therapist perspective, it's good that we get to role model how to talk about a sensitive topic and how to talk about it in a way where we respect each other's opinions and agreements or disagreements. Because I think we will end up role modeling however this play out to the larger community by how we interact with each other. So the visual of us all sitting up, that's beautiful. That. So I was impressed with the tone, exactly how it started, and the mana'o and the video by Auntie, and the whole ambiance was very respectful. I felt, and the discussion was super genuine. So that's real good momentum. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to acknowledge Hackbed, who had been referred to us from multiple sources, referred to Chair Komeji and to myself. And as it turned out, Hackbed was already engaged in similar type work with DLNR. And with Ryan's help, we were able to basically piggyback onto their agreement. And they have been on top of it in dealing with the logistics of it and all of that. Mahina Paishan is kind of a known entity when it comes to working in that kind of an environment. And, I'm grateful that she was able to accommodate that date. Now, we're going to have to pick up the cadence to this community meeting. And when we adjourned at Waimea, we recognize that voices and perspectives throughout this island of Hawaii need to be factored in to this strategic framework. So you should anticipate, and for the moment, save the date, June 26th in Kona, place to be confirmed and announced later. We'll make a formal announcement to the community. We learned a lot the first time out about channels of communication that are available to us that we need to activate, but it'll follow the same format. Hackbed's on it right now. Mahina Paishan has blocked the date. I'm asking as many board members to make themselves available. It will follow a similar format on the 26th from 5 to 7. And within the next week, we will determine what the venue will be for that event. And you can expect subsequent meetings coming around the island. In fact, when we adjourned at Waimea, we were asked to consider coming to Hamakua at some point. So we're just going to make a round the island circuit and may end up back in Waimea for a closing meeting. There was a portion of that community, Hawaiian Homes, that had a major meeting themselves. And so not all of them could get to our meeting. And that's been communicated to us as well. Any other questions about the community meetings? Yes, Neil?
John, I think it's really important to kind of lay out a calendar as far as we can to say where we're going to be, when it's going to happen, so people can plan ahead. And when we see these kind of conflicts of engagements the same night in the same small community, people can kind of plan around that, and we can plan around that as well. That's one thing. Second thing, there's the Konokohala testimony. I think Chamber of Commerce testimony was very good in pointing out that I could have done a better job in introducing the framework and the context. That there's an aspirational statement, and she was saying that it would be nice to have an inspirational conclusion to the document there's a plan for that, and we had at one point hoped to address that as part of the process, making it a third question that we asked the audience, and the facilitators wisely decided not to do too much, because when you try and do too much at a community meeting, you don't get much done at all. Everybody feels rushed and say, I don't think they really wanted my input because they only gave me 5 minutes to give it and stuff like that. But somehow we've got to figure out how to open that door to let people know that, number one, we plan to have one, and number two, we'd like to hear their thoughts about what should be in that aspirational statement. Likewise, we could have set the context. I could have set the context better of they really want to make sure that these are not just words, nice words that we don't intend to implement, and we have no means to implement. And so it's demonstrating the connection to the regulatory framework and how we hope to really not just say these words, but really let them be our guide in terms of the decision making. We need a stronger connection there to offer that assurance that there's a process for that. So we can those are things we can work on. Finally, I know I was tempted to put into chat a picture of servant leadership that was demonstrated that night, but I know you can't do that in a public meeting, otherwise you violate sunshine. But it was a picture of our chair Komeji and Lloyd Umebasame with dust mops, ready to kind of clean the place up after we were done. But we had great servant leadership from our chair that evening, as well as our fiscal officer.
Except Lloyd got scolded by the woman who runs the place because he was mopping it incorrectly. Right? You're going left to right, and you're supposed to go right to left, or something. But you didn't miss that. So thank you, Neil. And you're absolutely right about laying out. The only thing I regret about the YMM meeting is not being able to say, see you in November, right? Or something to that effect. And we're just going to have to get that good at doing that. This whole area of community engagement is becoming a massive division within the authority. And we're only scratching at the surface right now. I do want to conclude this section by saying that I shouldn't mention his name, but I'll give it away anyway. There was a member of the Board of Land and Natural Resources there that evening. And I happened to see him on Monday. And he quite spontaneously walked up to me and started to talk about the YMM meeting. And could not be more complimentary about the way it was structured, the way it was facilitated, the way that it engaged communities in small, intimate settings, and just encouraged us to keep moving in that way. I will tell you that working with HACMED and with a facilitator is almost a luxury that we're going to have to learn how to afford going forward, because especially in the Circle Island segment, the idea being that once we complete the island, then the staff will come back to you with a proposal on what we should be doing on different islands in the state. At that time, the strategic framework will have been completed, and we will be running on a parallel track with the planning consultant. So quite a bit of activity to look forward to. Any other questions about community engagement or the community talk stories? Okay, then I'm going to ask Member Ben Kudo for an update on the long-term transition working group.
Thank you, John. We had our last long-term transition working group on April 22nd. And we are on the fourth tranche or bucket of documents. We're making very, very good progress moving forward. And our next meeting is on next Friday, the 16th. At which time I anticipate that we might be finished with the fourth and moving on to the fifth. So we're making really good progress and moving through all of the inventory of documents, assets and liabilities, And as I said in the previous meeting, I'm very encouraged that hopefully we'll be completed with our process by the end of this year. So unless something goes haywire or goes sideways on us, but that's what I'm anticipating now. And it's been a real interesting process. And I hopefully the members will be contributing their manao in the future for other documents that are coming up. We're getting into the what is called the nitty-gritty detail, type of operating kinds of agreements like power purchase agreements and for the solar panels and those kinds of things now, which are, in my opinion, more ministerial rather than the other documents that we went through in the first three tranches. So I think things will get a lot easier as we move forward. But that's my summary. If anybody has any questions, let me know.
Mahalo, Ben.
Okay, hearing none, Mr. Chair, that concludes agenda item 6.
Okay, I'll move on to,
Oh, wait, Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
think you did not take public testimony on this agenda item. Do you want to
Okay.
open it up for public testimony?
sure. Is there any public testimony? No one has signed up for testimony on any of the items, but we can have it open. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that.
so we've basically covered, under, item 7, those 2 items already, right? As part of what your discussion was just now.
And the pig has been dissolved.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So to me, we should be on Lloyd's finance report.
Lloyd, finance, item 8.
Thank you again. Just a short side note. University of Hawaii men's volleyball team did win the first game against Penn State in 4. So I'm very happy for that. And they're playing up in Ohio, which I wish I was there, but I'm not. Anyway, I thought I mentioned that. The financial statements that was sent out, knowing that we had to get it out sooner than later, I did have a note there that the information was as of the 4/17/25. However, thereafter, I looked at the DAG's report, and that was the latest for the month of April. So what you have in front of you are the final numbers for the month of April. Right now, we have spent $550,000 in total for salaries, office costs, and travel. It's not in the report, but just kind of summarizing the entire thing. I expect to have in the next 2 months for May and June, approximately $170,000 of expenditures. What that does is, and we have an encumbrance for the attorney's fees of $392,000. So that equals up to about $1.1 million in total for this year. I've set aside $2.4 million, like I said, for our management, the consultant's contract. So we would, knowing that we had in total 3.6 million, I have estimated that we would spend just under $3.6 million for this year. So to utilize all the authorized appropriations that we have for the fiscal year 2025. And if there's any questions, I'm here to try to explain it further. Thank you.
Neil?
Lord, the management consulting services, 1.5 is the encumbrance, isn't it? Or the set aside, not 2.4?
Yeah, I have 1.5, but I guess all I'm saying is we have available 2.4 if needed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? If not, we will move to the next item. And hear from the Center for Monica Stewardship. Greg?
Thank you, John. Aloha, everyone. Good to see you folks. We have several items to go over under item 9 here for this meeting, beginning with our operational updates. I'd like to introduce folks who have not met Nahua Gios, our Director of Stewardship Programs. She's here to present some of the material that we'll be covering today, as well as Joy Yoshina, who is on the front lines of working project proposals and our permitting process when projects come before us. So she's here to describe or provide a summary of the 2 specific projects we'll be covering in our operations update. So we do have 2 projects. One is the NASA Infrared Telescope Facility Erosion and Safety Measures Project. This one is a Type A project that's being presented just for information. Although if you have any recommendations that you would like us to integrate into the proposal, we can certainly do that. The second project is the Canada-France-Hawaii Telescope Gemini Wahana Conduit Removal Project. This project actually ended up being classified what we call a Type B project, which you folks have requested to actually take formal action on, Type B and Type C projects. We'll describe a little bit more why it's been classified a Type B, because on the surface of things, it may not appear that it would need to go through this entire process and require your formal action. But there's some historical reasons why we classified it as a Type B. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask Joy to provide a quick summary of the NASA project first, and we'll take questions. You should have in your packet of materials the complete project proposal, but we do have some photos, I think, that Joy is going to be referring to in your proposals. So, Joy.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Joy, and I help with project reviews and permitting compliance. And thank you, Puaina, for pulling up the project packet. The first one, as Director Chun mentioned, is with the IRTF. They are looking to do some deferred maintenance or overlooked maintenance. Here in the first image, you see a photo of the front of their facility. This project actually comprises about 3 parts, and so the blue in the photo indicates where they'd like to install a rain spout, a drain pipe. Basically, it would be to divert the water that's the little rainfall that we do get does cause some erosion, and so they'd like to put in the pipe to divert the water across that gravel area to the driveway, sorry. And the next photo shows, you can see where the driveway starts. So where the white line is at the bottom, the pipe is just running across there and sending the water across to the driveway. Pipe would then be covered by cinder brought up from our utility services. So it's local cinder, and it would just, it serves a few purposes. One, again, it stops the erosion or addresses the erosion going on. It allows for better drainage to the site, and also it helps, you can see it'll fill in that area between the current surface level and the cement pad. So it creates a flatter surface for employees and other guests walking in that area. The next part of their project involves installing a pipe fence That covers, so that's an outbuilding just outside of their main dome. They've been seeing people walk up onto that half wall and from there go up onto the top of that outbuilding. They've tried to address this by putting up signage, just stay off the building, and unfortunately people continue to go up. So this is a safety measure. They haven't actually seen anyone fall off, but again, they're trying to prevent any such accidents and also protect their property. The fence is, or the railing is shown as yellow in this image, but they will be painting it brown to blend in with the surroundings. Next slide. And the last part of their request is to install some conduit covers. These are just 6 cubic inch boxes really that will protect holes in their outer walls. The holes are for different electrical wirings from their cameras to go into the building, and that just needs to be covered up to prevent thermal disequilibrium or any water getting into the building. It also helps them comply with the National Fire Protection Association code. And this project, we believe, does not require any permitting from DLNR, but we are still submitting a request for concurrence whereby OCCL would simply agree with our classification of the land use and allow it to proceed. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, the next project is a request for a site plan approval. This is project number 2 with CFHT. CFHT is the applicant, although the conduit is actually shared between CFHT, the Canada-France Hawaii Telescope, and the Gemini North Observatory. The conduit was installed about 20 years ago, initially to test some interferometry between different observatories. They found that it would work best just between Gemini and CFHT. And so Gemini collects data and sends it through fiber in the conduit to an instrument at CFHT. So this was an example of collaborative scientific research. Unfortunately, the fiber within the conduit was damaged irreparably about 2 years ago. They have been trying, it first took some time to identify where exactly the problem was and whether they could fix it. And the observatories have since determined they cannot. And so since it's now obsolete, in compliance with Chapter 11 of our comprehensive management plan about decommissioning and removal of obsolete facilities, they're asking to take it out. And actually under OCCL rules, this does qualify for a site plan approval since it's the demolition, removal, or minor change to existing structures. So we're asking permission to remove it. And it's really just lifting it off the ground. There's about 270 feet of above ground conduit that would be removed that way. The observatories are also asking that the portions nearest their respective observatories stay buried. So that would be about 125 feet at the CFHT end. And that's the photo that you see shown here. That portion actually runs near the weather tower at CFHT. And removing the conduit, number one, would be ground disturbance, and it could threaten the stability of that weather tower since it runs right at the edge of the tower pad. Gemini is also asking to keep buried about 30 feet of the conduit. Both of these ends, if the above ground portion is allowed to be removed, they ask for a temporary leave in place for the buried portions until their respective facilities undergo full decommissioning at some point in the future.
So why don't we take each project individually? Is there any feedback on the IRTF erosion control measures, safety measures project that you would like us to integrate into the proposal before we submit our concurrence letter? Hearing none, thank you. On the Canada-France Gemini Ohana conduit removal, any questions? Yes, Noi.
I just have a little concern over the fact that we're going to leave some of that material in the ground because is it because they said the telescopes didn't want any possible disturbance to their current facility? Is that the reason why it should be left in the ground?
It has to do, we try to minimize as much as possible the ground disturbance that occurs, and those would need to be, all of that infrastructure would need to be removed at the time that the facility was decommissioned. So yeah, it is because it's in the ground, and we just figure it's better to minimize that disturbance right now. There is some, as Joy pointed out, on the proximity of the conduit that goes past the weather station on the Canada-France site. There is some potential disruption to or threat to the foundation of that weather center as well.
Okay, it just seems concerning to me. When things don't work anymore, I like to see them removed. So, but you know, perhaps there's a better reason to leave it in the ground for now until it comes out ultimately, as you mentioned, when full decommissioning takes place, right, of those facilities.
That's
so,
correct.
so I don't know. I wonder if any of my other colleagues have any comment about that.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I mean, that's one of the in listening, that was one of the concerns. And I kind of don't I feel over time maybe having a plan to address what Kumu Noinoi is bringing up would help us along our way.
I have a question regarding both of those comments. In the execution of the paperwork with OCCL for this one, would they stipulate what was just said, that those it would be a requirement for that conduit to be removed upon decommissioning of the larger facility? Would you anticipate that, Greg?
Yeah, I think we have it in the project proposal already. So they would be, what they would be approving would be that condition. But we can make sure that that gets highlighted as something that you folks have expressed concerns about, for sure.
I just think, well, from my perspective and like from the community's perspective in terms of building trust, is that it's a accountability issue partially, so that just so that we know there's a promise that that will get removed at the time facility gets removed. Thank you.
Well, no, thanks for raising this. How real is the concern that this is going to create a disruption if they do it now? How much dust really gets created? How much, we have a history of cans getting kicked down the road. And so building trust is we demonstrate that when things need to occur, people are held to account. So, and we know the people here, and I think we have trust and faith that it's really going to happen, but we need to build a sense of confidence in the enforcement of covenants. And so is this really a problem to do it now?
Actually, Board Member Hannah's in CFHT did include a staff report of why they're requesting the removal, including the leaving in place for now of the buried conduit. So they've got some 125 feet of conduit buried at their end. And it is a very real concern for them to dig up the part that's near the weather tower. They do already document slight tilting of the weather tower because the ground is changing there at the summit, and they are very worried about any further change on their part.
I just want to add, it would require some excavation, and because from our perspective, because it's so close to the slope, of that, the side of the hill, that we wanted to minimize any kind of ground disturbance, with the idea that, you know, we could disturb some of the foundations and the hill. So we want to we're really big about minimizing ground disturbance, and minimizing any kind of disturbance that could, you know, destabilize that hill.
Fair enough. Thank you.
That seems like that's going to be something that's going to be a concern in perpetuity. Is that is that correct?
Yes.
Ultimately, seeing that the conduit will come out ever.
No, I would say that at the time of decommissioning of the facility itself, that's where the major mitigating the whole process would probably be the best approach to take, the whole decommissioning.
And
rather than trying to do anything else.
Including that tower.
Yeah. Any other questions? Otherwise, sure.
So as part of our process, we talked about B-like projects. I think this might be the first project that falls into a B, and we haven't had any C type projects. So under the framework that we've adopted, B, unlike the first IRTF project, this project requires that we sign off on the project. I would just make the comments that to their credit, CMS, you know, holds very highly the fact that they don't want to disturb create additional groundwork at this time. So my recommendation is that we approve this project, ensuring that there is a condition that at the time of decommissioning that everything gets taken out. So with that, I would ask for a motion to approve, making sure that we include in our motion the fact that at the time of decommissioning, all of that conduit as well as the weather station should be taken down. Can I get a motion for that?
Yep, I will move on that, Chair. Just want to state it correctly for the record. So, motion to approve the site plan application for the CFHD conduit removal with the requirement that conduit be removed as a condition that must be met when the observatory is decommissioned in the future.
Can I get a second, please?
I think there's a little friendly amendment to add the words "and weather station."
Yes.
Attached, yeah. And with that, second the motion.
Second the amended motion.
All right. Any further discussion? Not all in favor of the motion, say aye or raise your hand, please. Any opposed? None noted. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're moving to item B in this agenda item, and let me make a couple opening comments. Since September of last year, the MKSOA staff, Lloyd, Bill, and myself, have been meeting in a joint management committee formation with CMS. And the frequency of that is typically every 2 weeks. Within that formation, there are decisions to be made, debates to have, but it's happening within the framework of the existing comprehensive management plan. And so months later, I think we go back to the March board meeting, I mentioned that I was interested in conducting 2x2 meetings with pairs of board members in keeping with sunshine law to get the highlights of a comprehensive management plan in front of the board, subjected to any of your questions, so that you had a better understanding of the framework in which we're having to function now until the current CMP is replaced by our own management plan, okay? Following that meeting and in a subsequent joint management committee meeting, NAHUA had taken the initiative with her staff to begin to scrub the CMP and begin to separate some of the components that she felt the board would be supportive of, the board might be concerned about, and areas that were kind of gray, okay? And she presented it at the joint management meeting. I came out of that meeting believing that if she needed to get in front of the board as a whole, and if we needed subsequent 2x2 sessions, we could then schedule it. Since then, she and her team picked up the strategic framework that came out of the last board meeting that we had here last month and further scrubbed it, okay? And so what you're about to see is kind of the initiative that they took on their own in response to directions that we were going to take as MKSOA staff. So to say that we're grateful is kind of an understatement. And in preparation for this board meeting, there happened to be a projects and milestones PIG meeting that had been scheduled as well. And NAHUA and Greg had an opportunity to present to that PIG what you're about to see and gain further feedback, which will undoubtedly influence what you're going to see today. So at that point, I'll turn it over to you, Greg.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, John, for that introduction. It actually, this work that we're gonna walk you folks through today is actually something that we feel is really, really important. And was actually a good exercise for us to go through as well. Because we know these documents can be daunting. They're hundreds and hundreds of pages. And unless you live with this stuff all the time, you may not understand sort of the nuances that are contained in them. So it was good for us to go through this and really develop kind of a higher level overview of the documents. Well, first of all, let me say, I want to give all the credit for all the work here to NAHUA. She's been the one who has really pulled all of this information together. What she's going to be reviewing with you folks are overviews of our three main governance documents: the master plan, the comprehensive management plan, or what we call the CMP, and our administrative rules. And what she'll do in each of the sections is describe what their purpose is, how they were created, how the material in those documents are organized, and then offer our views on where we think these documents align with the thinking of the board and the strategic framework that has now been issued, and where we think the board will want to take a closer look in the development of your own plans. We do feel that these plans can serve as a foundation for you folks to build out from in the development of your plans. But that's something that the planning consultant working with you folks will have to help you walk you folks through to make sure that the things that make sense to be integrated make sense to be integrated. So with that, I'll turn it over. I do want to apologize ahead of time. This is a lot of material. And we've simplified it as much as we can, but there is a lot of material, so this is gonna take a little bit of time. And what we can do is stop after each section and ask if there's questions. So I'll give it over to Nahua.
Okay. Aloha, everyone. And we're gonna share screen real quick. Yeah. We are going to start off, can I get this on full screen or is that?
That is full.
Okay. So I wanted to start off, I just wanted to let you all know that, again, this is a very high level summary, taking hundreds of pages and condensing it down so you can get a snapshot and a feel for our master plan, CMP, and administrative rules. I'm starting with the master plan because that is kind of the foundation of what everything else is built on. The master plan was updated in 2022. There were previous master plans to this, but I'm not going to spend time on those. I'm just going to spend time on the current one that we worked from. The master plan is broken up into 3 pieces. The foundations, part 1, which covers the mission, vision, values, goals, and objectives, and a little bit of the background. The physical plan, which talks about Halepohaku, the Mauna Kea Science Reserve, roadways and utilities, and managed access. And part 3, which talks about implementation, which includes the proposal review process, the design guidelines, and any adoption, effectiveness, and future amendments. Part 1 discusses the foundations that the master plan rests and which have guided the decisions reflected in it. We feel that this section will probably need to be updated by MKSOA because you will need to put in your own mission, vision, goals, and background. This kind of gives you a snapshot of what the mission from the university is, the goals. We have 4 goals: a stewardship goal, an astronomy goal, an education goal, and a balance goal. And a little bit of the background, which you probably will need, which defines the land covered by the plan, which is we call the UH Mauna Kea lands, its relationship to past plans, and it reviews implementation and funding. The physical plan is the part 2 of this master plan. It discusses the facilities, the land uses that UH believes may occur within the UH Mauna Kea lands over the period of this master plan. So any project that's proposed within the UH Mauna Kea lands that meets the definition of land use under DLNR's conservation rules will need to obtain certain approvals, which you guys are familiar with because you're part of that approval process. They need to be consistent with UH's mission, vision, goals, and objectives outlined in the master plan. So this is a great framework, but again, some of this section could be used by MKSOA, but some of it will need to be updated. The section highlights that I wanted to highlight for you, this section includes a section on Halepohaku, which is HP facilities that include where we house our support services and a base point for stewardship activities. And then it has a section on the Mauna Kea Science Reserve, and this is a discussion of astronomy sites, the future of astronomy, and UH commitments. I do want to highlight it is in this section, if you're interested, that it talks about that there will not more than 9 astronomy sites. UH has committed to that. And 5 of those, the 14 sites are to be decommissioned. And they may be considered for non-astronomy uses consistent with this master plan's framework. And that site 13 will be the last new site developed. All future astronomy facilities will remain within the astronomy sites that remain eligible for future astronomy use, and that no land uses will be considered on major undeveloped cinder cones in the Mauna Kea Science Reserve. So this, I think a lot of you will be interested in reading this section because that's where the university discusses the astronomy sites. And then there is a section on roadways, utilities.
Sorry, Nahua, just clarify, site 13, is that the TMT site?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And the last section is roadways, utilities, and managed access. In here is a discussion of future potential projects. This section also provides guidance for astronomy sites on wastewater management. I know the public is concerned about wastewater management on the Mauna. So if you're interested in that, it talks about that in this section. All facilities in operation beyond 2033 will be required to replace existing wastewater facilities to a zero discharge system. So I'm going to stop there. Any questions? And our last section in the master plan is part 3. And this discusses the implementation of this master plan, including the proposal review process, design guidelines, and the amendment procedure. Some of this section could be used by MKSOA. The proposal review process, this is where we review proposals, and you are already have approved and are implementing this section for type B and C project reviews, which we just did today. This is also where we have design guidelines. They're very high-level guidelines that are meant to provide early guidance and community input in a manner that prepares the proposals for future permits and approvals by minimizing potential adverse effects. So that's where it talks about the design guidelines. And then adoption, effectiveness, and future amendments is another section. The UH Board of Regents adopted this master plan to guide land use decisions by UH in the Mauna Kea lands. It is intended to provide policy level guidance and criteria to UH decision makers. We want to note that this master plan is not a regulatory document, nor is it required by DLNR like a comprehensive management plan. And it's anticipated that this plan will have a 20-year life. So we just wanted to point that out. I do want to note that the master plan was developed because it is an integral and updated because part of this is an integral part of the environmental impact statement that will be required for a new land authorization or general lease. This was for UH. We needed to have all of this information so we could do our environmental impact statement. Any questions?
Can you explain that all state leases need environmental?
Yes. Anything done on state land is requires an environmental impact statement. It talks about the impact to the environment, any mitigation, and lays all of that out. And it also is another area for public input.
In this particular case, when we were developing this, because we were seeking a new land authorization, that's what triggered the need for a EIS. So I don't know how that applies to you folks, but that's what triggered it for us.
So the point that I wanted them to raise is that any leases that we issue, new leases, would have to have an EIS. Right? So that lengthens the time that it takes to enter into a new lease. Right? You have to go through this process that in a regular private lease situation need not occur.
Is this full screen?
Now, Hua, before you proceed with the CMP, go back to the master plan. Number one, in form and a lot of the substance, it's quite impressive. I think there's lots to benefit, for us to benefit from that. I do think at the foundation, there's a real big difference, and I've kind of cited this earlier. You steward Mauna Kea as a publicly accessible learning landscape. I think that's a really different foundational principle than stewarding Mauna Kea for its kind of services to our environment, in terms of water cycle regulation, habitat diversity, soil nutrient cycling, climate regulation, and so forth. Those things that in its geophysical qualities of this really important vahipana, our view, I think we're going to put that at the center of this, not as a public, and the learning center, the learning landscape is part of that, it's not at the center of it, it's just part of that. So if that's where the puck goes, if that's where we head, what what's the delta? What big changes do we need to consider?
Let them go. Your point is well taken and it's a good point, but we gotta start with building a common understanding of the framework, right? That kind of discussion that you're talking about is a discussion that we're gonna have at MKSOA at the appropriate time, but the intention of this particular presentation is to make sure all of the board members have kind of the basic understanding of the master plan, management plan, and rules, and then how they kind of fit, just so that we create that foundation, So at a later time, we'll take up your question and we can ask them to address your question. But I wanted to use this time, if we can, to just make sure everybody has a level foundation,
I hear you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks.
Thanks, Neil. We made a note of that question, so we won't forget it. We'll move on to the Mauna Kea Comprehensive Management Plan. Do you want to talk a little bit about it first?
No.
Okay. I just want to spend a little bit of time on the background of the Mauna Kea Comprehensive Management Plan. We have updated this comprehensive management plan in a section of it, and so sometimes it gets a little confusing. So we are going to start with the 2009 Comprehensive Management Plan. The Comprehensive Management Plan covers the UH management areas, or what we call Mauna Kea lands. And just a reminder that they are in the State of Hawaii Conservation District. Lands in these areas are regulated by BLNR, and all activities and uses within the Mauna Kea lands must follow BLNR's Conservation District regulations. We have 2 leases from DLNR and 1 easement for the Mauna Kea lands. These collected parcels are identified as the UH management areas. The Comprehensive Management Plan, as we call it, the CMP, I have this written wrong. I was just corrected by our attorneys. It is not a DLNR lease requirement. It is an OCCL, Office of Conservation and Coastal Lands requirement for conservation land. So that is incorrect. I just wanted to highlight that. But the administrative rules that it refers to is correct. And it defines a management plan as a comprehensive plan for carrying out multiple uses on state conservation land. The UHCMP specifically addresses multiple land uses and resource values within the UH management areas. The UHCMP was submitted by UH to BLNR for public review and comment prior to approval by the board. And then we are required every year to provide an annual report on the status of the management actions that are provided to BLNR and DLNR, and copies can be found on our website under plans and reports. So a little bit of overview on the 2009 CMP. It was developed to replace the 1995 management plan after the development of the 2000 master plan, after feedback from the auditors, reports, litigation, and community input. It was determined that UH didn't just need a management plan for its uses, but a comprehensive management plan for all of the UH Mauna Kea lands, even those subleased to other areas, such as observatory facilities. The CMP utilizes adaptive management strategies to protect Mauna Kea's unique cultural and natural resources. The adaptive strategy suggests that as more information becomes available, the CMP will be amended to adapt to new information through annual and 5-year reviews. I want to take a moment to note that the 2022 CMP supplement that will later be reviewed only updates certain sections of the 2009 CMP, primarily Section 7 and one little part of Section 3, but not all of it. And also in 2019, the administrative rules were developed to regulate public and commercial activities. The administrative rules are an enforcement piece of what we do every day. No. So the sections of the CMP. Section 1 through 4 covers the importance of the CMP, discusses the importance of the CMP, the management environment that resulted in the development of the CMP, and the process of developing it in consultation with interested community members. Section 5 through 6 covers the cultural and natural resources, and Section 7 is where we get into the meat of it, and it lists the management actions for dealing with multiple existing and future activities and uses in the UH management areas. Section 7 is where a lot of our operations is based around. Any questions? This is a layout of how the CMP is put together. As you can see, it has a cultural anchor, executive summary, and then the different sections. And then within each of those sections are component plans and component areas. So sections 1 through 6, this is where you'll find the cultural anchor, section 1 through 4, the importance of the CMP, sections 5 through 6, where cultural and natural resources. The cultural anchor, executive summary, and sections 1 through 4 will need to be updated as they are related to UH's process for the development of the CMP. However, I just want to highlight some of the information could be used as a historical framework in MKSOA's plan. In sections 5 through 6, it provides a historical background, and most of that information I feel like could be used in MKSOA's plan. It talks about the cultural and natural resources, a lot of the historical background, some oral history, and the human environment. So I'm going to pause there to see if there's any questions. So section 7 describes the management actions needed to address the various management needs identified during the process of developing the CMP. It is broken into 5 parts: understanding and protecting Mauna Kea resources, managing access, managing the built environment, managing operations, and then 1995 management plan controls. The management actions are organized by topic in the component plans. Each component plan is organized into 5 sections: the desired outcome, which we felt was the goal, the current status, which included background information and current management activities and any problems, the need, what type of actions are needed to achieve the desired outcome, and then the management actions, each specific aspects of the program development to meet the needs and achieve the desired outcomes. And then there is a section on additional considerations that detail on developing and implementing management activities. Move on to next. I wanted to just give you a snapshot of what the desired outcomes are for each section, just so you could see in a real brief summary what a desired outcome is for each section. So the Native Hawaiian culture and history, it is to increase understanding and appreciation of Native Hawaiian history and cultural practices related to Mauna Kea to ensure that these practices are protected and respected. Identify, document the condition of, and protect historic properties in the UH management areas. So that just gives you a highlight of one of the desired outcomes, and there is a desired outcome for each section. And I'm going quickly through this because I'm not going to read it all. You can take the time to read them on your own. But this kind of gives you some, again, another snapshot for some of the different areas. The development of management actions. Management actions were created with the understanding, number 1, Mauna Kea is a culturally significant site. Number 2, that the high elevations of Mauna Kea represent a unique global resource that should be preserved for future generations. Number 3, management activities will be focused on limiting the impacts of human activities on cultural and natural resources. And number 4, the planning and execution of resource management programs will involve input from the larger community, such as scientists, educators, cultural practitioners, the public, etc. And I have a listing of how many management actions are in each plan. And so we have a total of 103 management actions that we are responsible for implementing every day. And then I wanted to give you a sample of the management actions, just a kind of snapshot of management actions. I'll read the ones for the natural resources one. So it's limiting threats to natural resources through the management of permitted activities and uses. In natural resources 2, limit damage caused by invasive species through the creation of the invasive species prevention and control program. So this gives you an idea of some of the management actions, kind of what they cover. And then I'm sure you've seen section 7, it talked about the 1995 management controls. When I read that, I was like, what is this? Because I hadn't seen this before. And it really never stuck out to me. But the CMP supersedes and replaces the 1995 management plan, at the same time incorporating most of the controls from that document to ensure they continue in full force and effect. So just note, this part of it went completely away when we developed the administrative rules. This was before we had administrative rules, and this was a way to do some enforcement. So this is like setting the hours of operation, opening and closing the road, requiring 4-wheel drive vehicles, no alcohol, all of those kinds of things, no littering, no pets. The thing that was eliminated was really interesting. The National Ski Patrol, patrol duties that were eliminated because it's no longer in operation, and commercial snowplay tours and commercial ski meets and events. So it's really showed how over time, how that CMP has evolved. I want to spend a little bit of time on talking about the 2021 outcome analysis report before we head into the 2022 supplement. If you're going to read anything, I recommend you read the outcome analysis report. Because it is a progress report that describes the state of the resources, the status of the various management programs, progress towards meeting the CMP goals, and other relevant information. And it's made up of 3 sections. The state of the resources, which gives you a brief overview of how the resources, the status of it, how it's being managed, and management and outreach, the goals and objectives of the CMP for the UH management areas, and then the program status, the extent to which UH's efforts have been successful in achieving the CMP's stated goals and objectives. And it also highlights the areas where maybe we haven't been meeting the goals and objectives. So this is a good report to read to kind of get an idea of what's happening on the mountain.
I'd like to make one comment here. Under the 2009 Comprehensive Management Plan, it states in there that we're required to do this outcome analysis report, or what we call the OAR, prior to actually updating the management plan. So this process by itself involved going back and gathering all the information that had been gathered up until that time to do a comprehensive review of the state of the resources. And that process itself took about a year. So we didn't really start to get to updating the management plan until we were completed with this step in the process. So that's really was kind of key for us in terms of completing the whole update that we went through.
In the OAR, you will find the status of management actions by category, and it will have a section for those management actions that have been completed, those that have been completed and are ongoing, and those that are ongoing. Those that were completed and ongoing are where we were required to develop like the cultural resources management plan. So we had to create the plan, and then the ongoing part is the implementation of that plan. So that's why it's completed but ongoing. And here is a snapshot of the completed actions that you will find, and most of them again were, as you can see, are the plans. So the cultural resources management plan, the natural resources management plan, the invasive species control plan, the education outreach plan, all of the different plans that were required to be created. And those are the things that we call the sub-plans. So we have the CMP, it's a whole big document in itself. And then the sub-plans go into detail in each of those specific areas. And I know you folks asked a lot about the decommissioning plan. The decommissioning plan is a sub-plan of the CMP. So we'll talk a little bit about the 2022 supplement. We introduced the concept of adaptive management a little bit earlier. And so this 2022 supplement really took the time to look at adaptive management, and it allowed the resource managers and stewards to continue the management actions as written in 2009 or adjust course and refine them based on lessons learned and input from community and stakeholders. So our staff had a lot of input into the updates for Section 7. Some of the management actions are, look great on paper, but when you actually have to implement them in the field or every day, they just didn't make sense. So some of those got reworded and adjusted based on that feedback, and as well as feedback from the community. So changes in the 2022 supplement focused on updating the wording in Section 3.1.1 and replacing the entire Section 7 of the 2009 CMP. Please note, this supplement does not propose new activities or land uses, and it also included some measurements of accountability and progress for implementers and those overseeing and the interested public. So just keep in mind, the 2022 supplement did not replace the entire 2009 CMP. So Section 3 update, I just want to highlight it. This wording replaces Section 3.1.1 of the 2009 CMP and updates the definition of the UH management areas. There's a little bit of confusion about that, so we decided that it was good to update this. The term UH management areas will be synonymous with the Mauna Kea lands, which are defined under the Hawaii Revised Statutes 304A 1901 as the lands that the University of Hawaii is leasing from the Board of Land and Natural Resources, including the Mauna Kea Science Reserve, Halepohaku, the connecting roadway corridor between Halepohaku and the Mauna Kea Science Reserve, and any other lands on Mauna Kea that the University of Hawaii leases over or over which the University of Hawaii acquires control or jurisdiction. So here is where we show how Section 7 has been updated. It was divided into 12 subjects. So as you can see, all of the different subjects: cultural landscape, natural resources, education outreach, and so on. And each subject included the introduction, the desired outcome, the need, and then again, the management actions. And I just provided this slide as a snapshot of a short section so you can see how it was implemented. It has the introduction, the desired outcome, the need, again, the management actions, and then the management actions listed in the plan. And this is one of my shorter ones, so most of these are very long. I also wanted to give you an adaptive management example. Adaptive management was found, you can find it all throughout the supplement. CR 14 in the 2009 CMP is a simple example of an action that was adapted in one. CR 14 initially said, immediately report any disturbance of a shrine or burial site to the Rangers, Zocare, KKM Council, and SHPE. In the 2022 supplement, it's been updated to say, report disturbance of historical shrine or burial site. This is part of the regular activities that was assigned to the rangers, and then the rangers then immediately report that to management, and then we then forward that report to DoCare, KKM, and SHIFTI. So as you can see, it has a summary of why it was adapted. The other thing I wanted to highlight was the education clusters. In the education section, we revised it to include all of the different education that is required across all of the different sections. So here you have education and outreach management actions. You also have cultural resource actions. You have natural resource actions. You have activities actions, and all of the different sections. But we've put them all in one because all of those different sections, I guess all of the different areas work together when it comes to education and outreach. So I don't know if you wanted to say a little bit about this.
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate, what the 2009 plan had was a bunch of education and outreach requirements scattered throughout the document. And so what we tried to do was pull those together into the education cluster. And part of the reason for that is to ensure that we are looking at education and outreach in a more integrated fashion. That it's not just one-off activities here and there to meet just one specific action, but that when we do education and outreach, we're trying to touch as many of these as possible.
So just to give you a little example of how this works in a daily basis, like this week, we just had a meeting with our education and outreach, our natural resources, and our visit staff. Each education and outreach is doing some work. Natural resources is doing Malama Aina days, and the Viz is doing stargazing, but we all help each other to do all different things, all of the education outreach. So we make sure that we all work together and achieving all of these different management actions. So I also wanted to give you a snapshot of what you'll find in the annual report to the BLNR. Again, these can be found in our plans and reports section. And this is where every year we'll report on the work that we have done. This is a page from our cultural resources and our natural resources work done for calendar year 2023. And it highlights the management actions, the things that were listed in the management actions, and then the things that we did to accomplish them. Like we visited 100 sites in calendar year 2023, and that completed, that was part of the cultural resources management action number 10, where we're implementing the historical property monitoring plan. So this gives you a little bit of a snapshot of what that looks like. I added the next two slides, and I just want to say that these are my opinion. After looking at the strategic framework and looking at our CMP, it was really evident a lot of the core values that were listed, we are already doing. And we didn't have words, I guess, to go with those values, but you know, since I started and Greg started, we have been changing the way that we do things. And so I just wanted to highlight, when I looked at Mauna Aloha, your first core value, my summary of it is the responsibility to give back when doing activities on the Mauna, while understanding that how spiritually and culturally significant Mauna Kea is. Part of our work with Hau'oku Mauna, we work to make sure each project on the Mauna has a give back component, and that when they're working up there, that they understand how spiritually and culturally important it is. We have done that even with our orientations recently with Keck in their big construction. I know Rich can tell you that we did a whole orientation on that. They didn't do that before. And I really want to make sure that when people come and they want to do something on not Parker Ranch, that when they work on Mauna Kea, that it always has a give back component, that you just don't take from the Mauna, that you also leave and give something back. The second core value is oku kupuna. And I felt that this was, again, continually highlighting the importance and significance of Mauna Kea and understanding and perpetuating Native Hawaiian culture. We have worked really hard in the 3 years that I've been here to improve staff training, improvement of the displays at the Viz, improvement in our outreach, and how we conduct ourselves before doing stewardship activities. And also a lot of this has been with the hiring of Kaleo Pilago. He has helped us tremendously in improving this with our staff. In fact, today they had a staff training. We try to do it once a week. So we have incorporated all of this and we're continually working on improving this. Holomua Oi Ikela, hopefully I said that right, is adaptive management and stewardship, always looking to do what's best for the Mauna and for future generations. I feel like this is already woven into our CMP. We didn't necessarily have that wording, but it's woven all within the CMP and what we do today. Again, the next core value of the Kanawai, mindful of laws of nature and human impact. The CMP guides us to minimize the effects of human impact on the environment, and we're always working to make as little impact as possible. So we do this every day, and again, it's woven within our CMP. Ohana, working together for what is best for the Mauna. And we feel like, you know, we support other sister agencies, while even though it's not our jurisdiction, so that the health and the stewardship of the Mauna is always taken care of. A classic example of this is how we help the NAR. We go out to Lake Waiau. Our rangers do at least once or twice a month. We take pictures from the same exact point to document the health of the lake. And then I say, pick up any trash that is around the ahu, any trash on the walkway, because no one cares where the jurisdiction lines are. They just see UH is Mauna Kea. So we'll just make sure that we malama the whole everything. You know, if you see trash from anywhere, I always tell my rangers, pick up trash. Doesn't matter where. So we help each other. Another classic example of this is that we recently had a brush fire up at near Halepohaku. And what happened was we had someone come up and they went into the forestry side, right on the other side of the road, right above our utilities. And they were going to go off-roading, and he broke his axle. They ended up spending the night, him and his family, and they decided to create a fire to keep warm. Well, while they were sleeping, that fire spread and went up on a mamani tree and burned it. And he put it out. His family walked out that morning, didn't tell us a word. They just said, oh, the dad's still staying up there. Our rangers, just out of courtesy, went to go check and make sure he was okay. And when we checked, we found that the area had burned about 25, 30 feet around that mamani tree, and it was still smoldering. We called PTA, they came out immediately, put it out, and then DOFA, within several hours, sent their team up to manage that fire, and we were able to get him out of that area. Again, that wasn't our kuleana to go check on him, but we just wanted to make sure he was okay, you know, because we know there's poor cell service. But again, that's ohana. It's helping those that are, you know, our neighbors and helping others. And kuleana, for the benefit of the Mauna, work together in a way that is respectful to all. We have been working really hard to change our approach to be more educational rather than enforcement focused. And a lot of this has to do with the hiring of lead ranger Dwayne Waipa. He is very much, he and I are focused on being ambassadors of aloha rather than enforcing rules with the visitors that come up to the Mauna every day. And we have found a noticeable change in the way we communicate with our visitors and anyone who comes up to the Mauna. It's instilling this concept to all who visit that how special Mauna Kea is, and when you come, to be respectful. In the past, it was all about, they didn't want anyone to come up and visit Mauna Kea. We wanted to reduce the amount of visitors, which is understandable. But if we're going to have visitors, I want to make sure that visitors know that this is a special place. And when you come, you need to be respectful, and really changing the tone of how people come to Mauna Kea. And so with our visitor team And with our rangers, we have been really changing the way we communicate this. And so I think Kuleana, we're already doing this. And then I'll move on to the next one. And guiding principles, I'll just go through these quickly. I think a lot of these we're already incorporating. Commitment to community engagement, more dialogue with all parts of the community. And we're really working to improve this. And with the hiring of our education outreach coordinator, Khalil Palago, we're working toward this. Land use controls, human activities for specific purposes with close oversight while minimizing the impact to the Mauna. This is really built into our CMP and our project review process. And Joy really helps with being the gatekeeper for this for me. You know, we really look at every single project. We look at every single research request to make sure that it aligns with the purpose of the MANA, the mission, the vision, and also taking into account how culturally and spiritually important it is. Protection of Native Hawaiian rights, built in, again, this I feel like it was built into our CMP and continues to improve with the hiring of our education and outreach coordinator, and also changing the approach of education rather than enforcement. And again, you know, doing a lot more staff training. Restoration of natural resources, management of human activity on the Mauna, and again, it's integrated into our planning and review process. Significance of the Mauna is unique culturally and environmentally and scientifically, and activities must be of the highest standards. And again, we feel like a lot of this is already integrated in our project review process. And of course, support of astronomy, support while being mindful of mutual stewardship of the Mauna. And again, this is integrated in our CMP and our processes. So that's an overview of the CMP very quickly and how it relates to the strategic framework. Any questions?
Before I head out, I get two questions, if you don't mind. One was going back, I never like interrupt you, but yeah, I think the 2009 plan, you know, and the sub-plan you mentioned on decommission is awesome. I just was wondering, how is each observatory making plans to meet the decommissioning requirements? And have costs to decommission been set aside for each observatory, or if new money needs to be raised? Because, you know, the CSO decommissioning, from what I understand, was like $6.5 million. So that's kind of the first question. And then I have a statement after that. And the statement is, I think you guys are doing a good job. I think that that's a great starting point. And it just makes sense to me to utilize a lot of the people of CMS, because you know, and just make adjustments going forward, just to continue with the continuity. Anyway, so that's my question and my statement. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. On the question regarding decommissioning, we do have signed commitments by each of the observatories that they would be responsible for paying the full cost of their decommissioning at the time that they were to decommission. That was not necessarily part of their original lease, but we went back to them when the comprehensive management plan and the decommissioning sub-plans were developed and secured those commitments from them. So they have that, and we have that in writing from the observatories.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before I move on to the administrative rules? This one will be a little shorter, so it won't be as long. Neil?
Yeah, and Chair, reel me back if I'm digging too deep and you want to save some of this discussion for another day. What I wanted to offer a point of clarification. Your interpretation of Ohana, I think, is a little bit. Let's have further discussion about that, because my feeling, as we stated that in our strategic framework, it was about kind of an Ohana of like a web of life, not just people to people, agency to agency. It goes deeper, and understanding where humankind really kind of fits within a larger web that needs to act and function as Ohana. So I think we will have more discussion of that at some other point. And the question I have for you is, what would you rank on a scale of 1 to 10 the public awareness of the CMP? And of those who are aware of it, what are their issues? Do they love it? Have they cited, and are you aware of certain issues that we should be aware of that the public has with this?
Can answer the second question. The first question, first statement will deal with data.
Yeah.
I would say that general public do not have even a understanding of the CMP that Nahua just walked you through. Even at that level, I don't believe the general public has that level of understanding. I think that the issue of management actions coupled with administrative rules generates a whole bunch of concerns around things like access and decommissioning and ongoing obligations and et cetera, et cetera. So I think those will all be issues that you folks will have to address as well. But I think the general public does not even have the level of understanding that you've just been exposed to.
Mahalo.
And I think, I just wanted to add on that. So that would be a challenge for you folks, you know, to be better at telling your story. That's always my big thing, is like, how can we better tell our story in a positive way about what we're doing on the Mauna? So that's something that we're continually working on and need to do better. Okay, any other questions before I move on to administrative rules? Initially, I wasn't going to do the administrative rules, but it is an important part of what we do on the Mauna every day. And it does play a little bit of, it is very integral into everything else, you know, the comprehensive management plan. So the university has the Hawaiʻi Administrative Rules, Title 20, Chapter 26. In 2028, when you folks take over, these administrative rules go away. So folks will need to develop your own administrative rules, because ours is, how do they say?
They sunset per Act 255, our rules sunset.
So just keep that in mind. And the purpose of these rules is to provide proper use, management, and protection of cultural, natural, and scientific resources, to promote public safety and welfare of our regulating public and commercial activity. So we did go out and get a lot of public input. The rules were a result of extensive consultation and public outreach that included Native Hawaiian organizations, Hawaii Island businesses, commercial tour operators, government agencies, and all different groups. A little bit of background: the state auditor in 1998 and 2000 recommended the university develop rules and regulations for the development and public access in the Summit and Halepohaku area to control public access and commercial activities. So keep that in mind. Our rules only cover public access and commercial activities. When you folks develop rules, we suspect that they will need to be a lot larger. They'll have to encompass a lot more things. BLNR approved UH Mauna Kea Comprehensive Management Plan in 2009, which recommended that UH adopt rules. The legislature granted UH rulemaking authority under Act 132 Section Laws of Hawaii in 2009, and Act 132 is codified in part under HRS 304A 1901 through 1905. Do you want to add anything? No. Okay. A little bit about Act 132. Act 132 was passed. It's applicable to Mauna Kea lands, also known as UH managed lands. The Board of Regents may adopt rules pursuant to Chapter 91 to regulate public and commercial activities on Mauna Kea lands. It strives for consistency with the administrative rules of DOFA and NARS. We were required to consult with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and hold at least one public hearing on the island of Hawaii, no more. Yes.
No,
No, go ahead.
Let, I appreciate everybody staying on, but some people gotta roll off pretty soon from this. So I wanted to kind of jump the gun a little bit, sorry, no, for
No,
cutting
go
off,
ahead, go
but
ahead.
first thing, the assignment for all of you is that at some point, you're gonna have to have a better understanding of these rules. And it's like 3 inches thick if you start on both sides of the paper. So you start reading those rules with the idea of what areas can you accept? What areas do you think we have to relook at? We have to, some of the points that Neil raised, right? Expand on, delete, whatever, but part of the process that we've talked about for a long time is that when we get this planner involved, and they'll provide us with additional guidance, but when we get this planner involved, we don't want to start from scratch. You're going to see what a monumental task this is. So if there is agreement among the authority members that certain sections maybe, can be adopted, then let's do that, and let's focus on the areas where you have concerns, where you want to relook at, where like Neil says, you want to expand the definition, etc. But let's see what areas we can agree on so that we don't start from ground zero. Because when you start reading these documents, you're going to understand that starting from ground zero, it's going to take us 3, 4, maybe 5 times longer. That time we don't have, right? So first thing for all of you is start reviewing the documents to make sure that your input is accounted for when we get this planner that will provide us guidance. The second issue is an issue that I've asked the staff to start looking at. Okay, so right now, because we don't have our own management master plan, we by default are relying on the plan that UH has already developed as we co-manage to 2028, right? July 1st, 2028. Now, the question is, what happens on July 1st, 2028? What will be guiding us and our staff at that time in terms of how they're supposed to manage the properties? If the UH plans go away, what is to guide on July 1st, 2028? What is to guide our staff and our leadership in terms of how they manage the MANA from 2028 until when we get our own plans in place, until we get our own administrative rules in place? And I can tell you that each of these processes are going to take some time. So I've asked the management team to figure out, okay, a time frame and what their recommendation is as to how we handle this particular issue, right? While we are developing our master plan, while we are developing our administrative rules, do you think that we can finish them and get them approved by July 1st, 2028? And if we're not able to do that, what are your recommendations about how we proceed along until we do adopt our own management plan and administrative rules? It's a very, very complex timeline, a very complex question, but I have asked John and his team to start thinking about coming up with a recommendation to us about how we deal with that. So the 2 points I wanted to make is what your homework is to make sure that we don't start from ground zero. And then if you have any thoughts about how we handle this particular issue, please weigh in with John and members of the management team. So sorry, no,
That's okay. Yep.
Okay, so anyway, we can talk about that, but I just wanted to get that out before people have to roll off the call.
Yeah. Okay. I'll move through this quickly. I just wanted to show you a timeline of how long it took the university to develop their administrative rules. It took us nearly 10 years. There are lots of start and stops, but kind of gives you an idea of what we went through to develop our administrative rules. just a little bit on the act requirements. It took 30 days notice for public hearing. We had to afford all interested persons an opportunity to submit data, views, arguments, and orally and in writing. It was adopted by the Board of Regents in 2019 and then approved by the governor in January of 2020, and then filed with the lieutenant governor in 2020 and effective 10 days later. There are 5 subchapters: the general provisions, public activities, commercial activities, permits for public and commercial activities, and administration and enforcement. And then this is just a snapshot of some of the fines that we could collect. We don't really do any type of citations on the Mauna as of today. It requires a lot of back end building into a system, which we haven't gotten to. But our rangers have been really managing well with just doing, I call it just education. And we rely on Don't Care to help with some of the more harder enforcement issues. I just wanted to give you a quick snapshot on how you will see administrative rules and on the Mauna and the visitor education signs that we have. Is a sample of a regulatory sign that we have posted at Halepohaku. This keeps my Jesse, our attorney with OGC, happy. This is our regulatory sign, and it basically says what is prohibited on the Mauna Kea lands. So this is posted at Halepohaku and is part of the just a requirement to cover us. But what we have chosen to do instead to help communicate our rules is to do more education. Again, we have been more about education based. So these visitor signs, you will find them at our visitor information station. And a lot of these are the rules, but they're woven into our visitor education signs. So this one is on recreation. It reminds folks that they can't, no camping, no drones, no fires. And why, you know, and hunting is allowed, but hikers and bicyclists have to sign in. So this is one on recreation. Here's another one on driving, and this again are administrative rules regarding no two-wheel drive vehicles past Halepohaku, and then just some other safety and just how you can visit safely. Again, a lot about education. These signs are found if the QR code in the corner you scan them, they are found in multiple languages as well. And this is another one on habitat. Again, this is our administrative rules are woven into this about invasive species prevention and ecosystem protection. And we have one on regarding the ahus. And again, teaching visitors how to visit respectfully. And again, respect for our cultural sites. And again, this is our administrative rules woven into this about not taking anything from the Mauna, and how sacred Lake Waiau is. And I think the last one is about climate exposure and risk. This is more about safety. And then this talks about high elevation risk. And again, a little bit more about safety. And I think that's it.
Questions about the administrative rules? Okay, well, thank you, Nahua. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Joy. A lot, as you can see, a lot of work went into create this presentation for all of you. But it kind of highlights the complexity of what we've been asked to do. It really spells out the nitty gritty of some of the things that we have to do. And the time is running. That's why it's so important. I'm sure we'll get guidance, like I said, from the planner that we ultimately hire via the RFP. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So with that, I don't know if anybody else has any comments or questions.
Can I just say, I just wanted to say, if you have any questions, if there's something that you don't understand, you know, I'm happy to answer those, you know, if you want to direct those through John, and then between Greg and I, we'll be happy to answer those. If you would like to meet separately because you have a lot of questions, we're happy to do that as well.
Chair, let me add that the direction the chair has given myself and staff to lay out what process lays ahead and the accompanying timeline, as well as alternative approaches to dealing with all of that. We'll be able to address an initial framework to that at next month's board meeting. Time's of the essence. You know, going forward, you're also going to start seeing MKO appear on our monthly agenda, because the observatories are on a converging timeline as well. And we're going to need to benefit from being uploaded monthly by issues that are priority in that area as well. So first things first, I appreciate the presentation today. And you can see that at the CMS level, there's been every effort to try and accommodate and accelerate the forward movement of MKSOA. And I'm extremely grateful to Greg and his team for assisting us in that way. And today was a big step forward in that effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Glad to do it. Thank you. I know we're over the time, so with that, I'm going to just make the announcement that our next meeting is on June 12th, 2025, same time, same physical location. I don't think we have a quorum to actually move for adjournment, but because we don't have a quorum, the meeting is adjourned. Okay, we have quorum. Had quorum. In any event, the meeting is. Thank you. Thanks again.
The letter that you sent to me about a year